simply going to sit here for the duration. Nobody knows when in fact it's going to be disposed of or how it's going to be disposed of, because the UK, we have no plans at the moment for an underground dump.
However, the Government Committee on Radioactive Management consider that spent reactor fuel from the proposed new generation nuclear power stations should be buried.
It's a question of actually interaction with local communities. We'll take the example of, say, Sweden in particular, where they have for several decades now been talking to communities that are potential hosts for waste disposal sites. And that step is a crucial step. So in my view, what we would want to do was to have a set of scientific criteria. That is to say, the criteria that any site has got to achieve. And then you identify broad areas where those criteria might be satisfied. And at that point, you start asking communities whether they would want to consider the possibility of long-term disposal. And I think, too, that if communities were going to do that, then in a sense they'd be doing something for all of us. They'd be fulfilling a national need, and as a consequence they should have benefit because of that. It's not bribery, it's a recognition that there are communities that are doing something which are in the national interest.
But which communities would make that choice? Certainly not the Cumbrians.
It produces a huge amount of radioactive liquid waste, gas wastes and solid wastes, and the liquid, as we know, gets pumped out into the Irish Sea here, where it contaminates marine life. The radioactivity comes back on land and can be found all along the beaches here.
Nuclear waste will continue to be transported to Sellafield from operating plants and reactors undergoing decommissioning.
There is, of course, a call from some sections of the community these days for new nuclear power stations, particularly because they don't produce carbon dioxide, and if we had power stations it would help combat global warming. There's no evidence that that is the case. The actual carbon dioxide footprint of the nuclear industry is huge if you take it back to the basic steps of first mining the uranium to make the fuel, converting the uranium into fuel, using the fuel in reactors, treating the fuel at the back end here at Sellafield. It has a huge carbon footprint.
Other countries are taking a more proactive approach to alternative, greener, sustainable energy creation.
Germany is very keen on renewables, energy efficiency, like solar power. The government there has really supported the growth of the renewable industry. Sadly, in stark contrast to the UK government, who said in 2003 and 2004 that renewables were the way forward, but since then they've effectively let the industry wither on the vine. So now it's almost like the tactics of a schoolyard bully. They're saying climate change is a huge threat, the renewables industry isn't working, so therefore we need nuclear power. But this is a complete red herring, because nuclear power just isn't the solution to climate change.
There are alternatives, less destructive, more sustainable and cheaper. Tidal energy could be harnessed by the suggested Severn barrage, which would stretch from Wales to the West Country. It would create 5.4% of the electricity required for the UK and Wales, power to equal that of 2 or 3 nuclear power stations. Lagoons are another possibility. These low-rise structures could be sited in the Cardiff and Liverpool bays, capturing the tidal flow and creating energy from the retreating water. Just one of these could make up to 7% of the electricity we need and would provide sustainable decentralised energy. More than one could soon make up to the 18% provided by nuclear power. Meanwhile, unless the government abandons its nuclear power building programme, the deadly silent cargoes of nuclear waste will continue to travel across the UK.